Welcome to Coffee, Tea, Jesus, and Me. My name is Kaysa Thomas, and I am your host. And what's in my cup today? What's in my cup is tea, green tea. So I'm drinking green tea today. Let me take a sip. Today, guys, I want to have a Bible study lesson on our heart posture. I want to talk about our heart posture and how it matters, right? Why does it matter? And what happens when that place in us is out of order? And I want to just go ahead and start with Psalm 51. I'm going to read Psalm 51, beginning at the 10th verse. And I'm going to read down to the 12th verse. Okay, I'm just going to cover 3 verses. Creating me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit. This is what David cried out. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a background story about here. And basically, this was written after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba and had her husband Uriah killed in battle. And you can read more about that over in 2 Samuel 11, chapter 2 through 17. In this particular scripture, David is repenting and he has godly sorrow. But before we get to this, how did David know he was out of order? Well, God sent a man of God, a prophet of God, to give him a story. But before we get into that story, I want to point out that David was supposed to be at war. This was a time of war, and Uriah, which was Bathsheba's husband, was at war. He was one of the soldiers that was in the war. Instead of David being at the battle in the war, he was in his household walking around and saw this beautiful woman named Bathsheba. Now, what happens is sometimes we can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's the right place, but it's the wrong time. And although David had a right to be in his household, he was there at the wrong moment. He should have been at war. And so he was out of alignment because whatever happened with David, kings, get arrogant, they get haughty, and they become full of pride, and they say, well, I'm not going to go to war. I'm going to just pass this one out. Now, David was a man of war. He warred. It wasn't that he was a coward or anything of that nature. David just decided he was not going to go to war on this particular day, and saw Bathsheba walking back and forth. He saw her bathing and looking in the window, and he began to covet another man's wife. As a result of that, he wind up getting her pregnant. So in order for David to cover this up, David had to bring Uriah back from the war. Surely Uriah would be glad to be back from the war and he will sleep with his wife. But that's not what happened. Uriah never went in to his wife to sleep with her. His heart was in the war. His heart was at battle. And as a result of that, he wanted to go back to the battleground. So now David devised another plan. David now decided to tell the captain, hey, I need you to put Uriah at the front of the line so he can be killed. He can never find out. He can never find out that I slept with his wife and got her pregnant. So David basically committed sin after sin. First, he covered somebody that led to sleeping with them, then led to him having a baby, and then led to murder. And so sometimes our lives can go out of whack just by one particular thing. And I'm not saying you may not be guilty of adultery or anything like that. You may not have anything that egregious, right? But then you might be a gossiper. You might be a person that has a bad temper. And one thing leads to another. And a person with a bad temper, you know, if you can't control your temper, you become violent. And some people do become violent. So from anger comes violence, and then violence, you know, you wind up hurting somebody, and then you wind up hurting somebody, and then you might land up in jail or even worse, right? And so what happens at this time, David is so into himself and he doesn't think he's out of order. And a lot of times we don't really think that our heart postures are out of order. We think we're in the right place. We think, oh, there could be nothing wrong with me. Oh, no, I'm just fine. And we're just living our lives and we're going about doing things as normal or not normal. We're adding on different things and doing things, and yet we're still out of order. So God had to send the prophet Nathan. And let me say this. When God sends prophets to bring correction, they will come in different manners. Now, with kings, they had to approach them a little bit differently. They just couldn't say, oh, you know, you're a sinner and you know you did this and God said that. No, Nathan had to tell a story. And you can catch up with that story in 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter, 1 through 14. And I'm just going to take a few verses out of here. Basically, Nathan told David about a lamb. He basically said this one poor man had a lamb. Okay. And that's all he had. And he grew this lamb up and it was all theirs. And this was his lamb. And then there came this traveler, and I'm paraphrasing. Y'all go read the story. And he goes on to say the rich man goes and takes one of his flock and dresses it and takes it for himself, basically, in so many words. And David got angry. David got angry at the injustice, but David didn't realize that he was the man that caused the injustice. So sometimes we get angry at the things that we are doing, right? When we think it's another person that's doing it. We get, you know, self-righteous, and we get to the place where, oh no, we need to deal with that because that's not called for, but not understanding that we are the ones that are guilty. All right. So David says his anger was greatly kindled, and I'm in verse 5. And he said, Nathan, as the Lord liveth, the man has done this thing shall surely die. Now, see, he pronounced judgment without understanding that it was him. A lot of us pronounce judgment on things, but not realizing we're guilty of it. And then he said, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold because he did this thing and because he had no pity. So not only is he saying he shall surely die, but he got to restore the lamb. Nathan said in verse 7, and Nathan said to David, thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hands of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives unto thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. I'm going to read that again. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite, with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now I'm going to skip down. After he was rebuked, David then said, I'm going down. I'm sorry, y'all. David said in verse 13, he said, and David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also has put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. I talked to you guys about our words last week, right? How we we say things out of our mouth before we think about the things that we say. Now, God had to address this judgment that David had put upon himself. Now, God did punish the sin. He took his child. There was a death penalty, but it wasn't upon David. It was upon his child. Oftentimes, again, you may not be guilty of adultery. That may not be your sin. That may not be something that you've done. You could be an idolater, meaning that you can idolize things. You can be a gossip or a backbiter or a liar, or you bear false witness against your brother. You could be guilty of any of these things. The point of my Bible study is that oftentimes, whatever takes us out of the way of God, whatever leads us in the wrong direction, whatever holds us captive in our minds, it causes us to sin against God. And in order for us to be in the right place with God, we must cry out to the Lord, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit. David loved the Lord so much that he could not bear being out of the sight of God, being out of the presence of God. He valued his relationship, but life got in the way. A situation got in the way. A sin got in the way. And so again, it's sort of like anger. I know a lot of people around me, and I used to be one of them too. I had an anger issue. And anger, although for me didn't lead me to violence, but it led me to not having friendships. It cost me some things because I was constantly being angry about something, not controlling my temper. I lost jobs behind it. There were penalties and consequences behind me being angry. I would go to work. I didn't like how the boss would talk to me. I didn't like how they said certain things to me, and I would get all indignant and tell them a piece of my mind and then wonder why I got fired the next week, because I felt I was justified in my anger. I could have been justified in my anger, but my anger caused me to sin. The Bible says, be angry and sin not. It's okay for you to be angry, but it's when you take the anger and you begin to do something else with the anger. You get violent behind it. You cause upheavals. You cause strife. You disturb the peace. You fight. You become violent. Anger has led many people down a path that they wish that they wouldn't have gone down, because anger takes you out of that frame of mind, right? So again, you may not be guilty of what David was guilty of, but you're guilty of something. And every day, our prayer should be, creating me a clean heart and renew a right spirit. Don't take your spirit from me, Father. Don't take it away from me. Restore the joy of my salvation. Listen, do you understand, when you are out of alignment, your joy is stolen from you? Your peace is taken from you because you are no longer in the will of God. You are no longer in the presence of God, because whatever it was, it came and it took you from the presence of God. Whether that was anger, whether that was gluttony, yes, I said it, whether that was you gossiping and backbiting and lying and causing bearing false witness against your brother, whatever you did, You know what it is. I don't have to tell you. But you know that it led you out of the presence of God. And in order for us to be in the presence of God, we got to have clean hands. We have to have a right spirit. Are we perfect? No, we aren't. All have come short of the glory of God. All of us have sinned, right? And fall short of the glory of God. We all have, because we're human beings, and there are different scenarios in our lives that may have created a scenario that we necessarily wasn't looking for. You know, you could have just been there at the time. You were there in the right place, but maybe you weren't supposed to be there at that time. And whatever you saw, whatever you witnessed, or whatever it was, it did something to you. And oftentimes we allow circumstances and situations to just turn our minds, literally turn our minds. And sometimes our minds are reprobate. We're reprobate at that time, because all we're focusing on is that scenario. The scenario is what was important. So I would admonish you today, always look at your heart posture. Make sure that your heart is pure. Make sure that your heart is not full of strife, envy, covetousness, lasciviousness. Make sure it's not full with the issues of life, so much to the point where you miss God, or God leaves, although God said he will never leave us nor forsake us. But God can withdraw for a season. He'll never leave us, but that don't stop him from withdrawing. And oftentimes we have to put ourselves back in alignment with the Father. And that Psalms, I pray this almost every day. Lord, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. Sometimes we don't have the right spirit, y'all. Sometimes we don't have the right spirit. Even when we're helping people or doing things, our spirit isn't right. We're doing it maybe to get them to be quiet, or we're doing it because we have to do it, or we feel we're compelled to do it. So not only did he ask for a clean heart, he asked the Lord to renew, give him a new spirit. How many of us every day are asking the Lord to give us a new spirit? You know, there's so much that's coming at us. There's so many things that have the potential to make us step out of the will of God, that'll make us say things we're not supposed to say, all kinds of things. None of us are exempt. But our daily prayer should be, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit. Lord, I need to be in your presence more than I need to be angry. Lord, I need your presence more than I need to go over here and gossip about the next person. Lord, I need you in my presence more than I need to just sanctimoniously judge someone, not according to how you tell me to judge, but I'm judging them based upon my ideology. I want you to ponder on these things. And again, you may not have done what David had did, but you've done something. And so therefore, Psalms 51 is warranted for us to pray daily. I pray that the word of the Lord has been a blessing in your life. And until the next time, thank you for watching Coffee, Tea, Jesus, and Me. I'll see you in the next episode.